Hey everyone, welcome. Today we're digging into something absolutely crucial. We are unpacking a vital financial blueprint for any family planning a major life move to America. You know, for so many people, the American dream is this incredibly powerful beacon, but the reality of stepping off that plane and starting from absolute zero, well, it's a financial shock that honestly often goes completely undiscussed. So in this explainer, we're taking those raw numbers and translating them into a clear visual guide so you know exactly what to expect from day one.
Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for today. We are going to quickly cover the overall cost of living, housing and utilities, car and travel expenses, groceries, the realities of a minimum wage income, and finally, those sneaky additional expenses.
Section 1. Cost of living. Setting the stage.
When people picture moving to the US, they usually envision this really smooth, seamless transition. But the baseline cost to simply exist in America right now has risen dramatically. And keep this in mind as we go through this explainer. We are not crunching numbers for a single college student living on cheap ramen. We are looking at a full family. Setting up life requires a massive financial reset right from your first day. When you're single, sure you can cut corners, but with a family, those expenses multiply instantly.
Moving on to Section 2, Housing and Utilities, putting a roof over your head.
This is going to be your first and literally your largest expense. It is so crucial for new immigrants to resist the urge to immediately rent a full standalone house, because that will easily set you back $3,000 or more a month. Instead, you really need to look at apartments, which usually range from $1,000 to $1,500. And here's a really fascinating tip for you. Ground floor apartments are almost always more expensive. If you're willing to just walk up a few flights of stairs, you can sometimes drop your rent to between $700 and $900.
So, the absolutely crucial takeaway here is this number, $1,500. This is a very realistic, very conservative baseline for your monthly housing. Based on the data, a standard 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment might run you about $1,200 in rent. But you can't forget those utilities. You got to add roughly $270 for electricity and hot water. Round it up, and you're looking at a hard $1,500 leaving your bank account every single month, literally just for shelter.
Section 3. Car and travel expenses, the transportation necessity.
Unlike a lot of cities worldwide, public transit in most parts of America is pretty severely lacking. And relying on daily Ubers? That'll drain your account in no time. Owning a car here isn't a luxury, it's an absolute necessity. But it brings a whole cascading chain of expenses. Step 1, buying a reliable used car might cost you about $6,500 up front. Step 2, you have mandatory car insurance, running anywhere from $300 to $450 a month. Step 3, actually securing your driver's license takes 2 to 3 months. And Step 4, gas is going to add another $60 to $70 a month. It adds up fast.
Section 4. Groceries and household needs, starting from absolute zero.
Let's shift to the inside of the house for a minute. Remember, starting from absolute zero means you are buying the bed you sleep on, the dining table, the pots, the pans, the whole shebang. And for your recurring groceries, your specific family dynamics totally change the math. If you've got a baby, things like diapers and formula milk easily add $200 monthly. Then there's what we call the meat premium. If your family eats a lot of fresh mutton or chicken like you did back home, your grocery bill is going to spike dramatically.
When you tally up a maximum grocery budget of about $1,000 and combine that with your housing and basic transportation, you hit this number, $3,000. Take a second to really let that sink in. This is your absolute bare minimum monthly baseline just to exist as a family in America.
Notice how massively dominant that housing slice is. Half of your entire baseline, a whopping $1,500, is instantly swallowed up by rent and utilities. A third goes to feeding your family, and the rest just keeps your car on the road. Lock this $3,000 snapshot into your mind right now, because we're about to turn to the income side of the equation.
Section 5. Income and minimum wage, the reality of earning.
We've talked a lot about the money going out, right? So how exactly does it come in? Well, for a lot of new immigrants, starting out means taking minimum wage jobs, maybe working in large warehouses. Here is the grueling mathematical reality you face just to hit that baseline. At $15 an hour, you would need to work 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. That is 60 hours of exhausting manual labor every single week, just to gross $3,600 a month. And this perfectly illustrates one of the absolute hardest truths about the modern American economy. If a grueling 60-hour week only yields $3,600 and your survival baseline is $3,000, you literally have almost nothing left over.
To actually survive and build any kind of safety net, teamwork is 100% required. You absolutely need a dual income household. The first spouse's income is the shield that covers those basic expenses, while the second spouse's income is the engine that actually generates your savings.
Section 6. Additional expenses and reality. The hidden costs. If you thought that $3,000 baseline was the end of the story, well, here comes the real reality check. You simply cannot survive without these modern hidden necessities. First up, mandatory medical insurance. A single hospital visit without it can literally bankrupt you. Then, you have to add your home internet connection, which is totally essential for work and school these days, plus the family's mobile phone bills. When you stack these on top of everything else, those numbers swell remarkably fast.
Which brings us to the true, realistic monthly total, $4,000. When you factor in the medical insurance, the phones, the internet, and just a tiny, tiny buffer for the unexpected, $4,000 is the real number you need every single month, just to keep the lights on, the car running, and your family healthy.
So how on earth do you manage this if your combined income is barely scratching $4,000? Well, you have to make some pretty aggressive lifestyle sacrifices. You just can't go out and buy new seasonal clothes whenever you feel like it. Personal grooming, like men going to the barber for a simple haircut and shave, or women going to the salon for facials, those become rare luxuries, not just normal monthly routines. And eating out? Getting pizza delivered or hitting up restaurants like you routinely did back home is hands down the fastest way to completely shatter a beginner's budget. You have to learn to cook at home and strictly control your environment.
And that brings us to the ultimate question, the one you absolutely must ask yourself and your family. Are you financially ready to sacrifice your baseline comforts to build your American dream? The math is incredibly clear, the requirements are strict, and the need for a unified two-income strategy is completely undeniable. Take these numbers, sit down, and have those hard conversations with your spouse, and make sure your financial strategy is rock solid before you ever book that flight. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.